I think that using these stupid, and I'm going to say stupid smartwatches is making people go insane because you track a workout and you're like, oh, I only burned 40 calories. Now I have to eat and change. Don't look at it. Just do the exercise, track your food, and then you'll be in a better headspace.
Yeah, I can't speak to those trackers because A, I don't use them. I've never have. And B, I'm just not super up on how accurate they are. You know, I imagine at this point, I would imagine some of them are getting kind of accurate.
Yeah.
I would hope. But I just think that there's so much variability in that it's really hard to know if you actually burned 97 calories, or maybe you only burned 40, or maybe you burned 200. It's like, I don't know.
Well, we have a little bit of this to talk about in next week's episode, but when you exercise, you may only burn 100 calories during that exercise, but you increase your metabolic load over 24 hours to recover and replenish. So that doesn't tell you how many calories you'll continue to burn from recuperation.
Right. And
So,
go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, so paying attention to how much you're eating, and if you want to lose weight, just eat less and a small margin less.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know how in depth we were planning on going with this, but maybe it's worth just like mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what you just said about exercise, it might say you only burned 100, but you're going to increase your metabolic load, you're going to burn more, whatever. So with diet, similar, and exercise has the same effect on your metabolism overall. Is your rate of metabolism, it changes over time.
Oh my, yeah,
So
over days and weeks.
over days and weeks, but also if you've been eating exactly 2,300 calories for the past 12 months, you've been
Mm-hmm.
eating that every day, I guarantee your metabolism after that 12 months looks different than it did before, if before you were eating like 3,000
Mm-hmm.
or 1,600, whatever. So you've conditioned your metabolism to burn at a different rate, if you will, burn. So that's important to note. So when you take off your 10% reduction initially and you hang out there for maybe a couple months, then you stop seeing your progress. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what's going on, is your metabolism has changed. It's not the same as it was when you first took off 10%.
Yeah.
And exercise is the same thing. So if you're constantly exercising at a similar load and intensity all the time, your metabolism has adjusted to that. And now, it's not really having the same effect as when you started. So
Yeah.
I think that's just important to note. That's why calories in, calories out. Some people get really, it's a trend to say that calories in, calories out isn't a real thing.
Yeah.
But I think what they're getting at is this concept of your metabolism will change over time. And so
Yeah.
it'll look like calories in, calories out isn't working. But what happened was the metabolism changed.
Yeah. So this is an important pro tip at this point. What I had on my notes at the bottom to talk about after is that if you are insured, which most people are, there's a pretty good likelihood that your insurance will cover a dietitian's visit. Now, I'm not saying that this is an end all be all. Just like coaches, dietitians, they have a certification and a credential, but they're good and bad. They're good and bad doctors, good and bad plumbers. We're just protected because they have a certification, right? So call up your insurance and see if they'll give you a free session with your dietitian. Maybe they do a blood draw, they check your biomarkers, they check your body fat composition, they check your weight. It's an objective place to start, and in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, use that service again. I'm serious, it's probably free.
I think that's awesome. I never thought of looking into that myself, but I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes we have people who don't want to do nutrition coaching today or tomorrow, the next month, and I always tell them just like do it. It's literally free. There's no reason not to.
Yeah. My mom, about a year ago, I think, my mom went to, I don't think she went to a dietitian, but she just went to her doctor
Hmm.
and they do blood work, and then she does some blood work. And a lot of the markers, they gave her this like test. It was like digital on her phone. So she got all the results on her phone. And a good bit of the markers were like not good. They were in red. And so at that time she asked me like what can she do for her diet. I gave her super basic stuff with diet, like a super basic approach. We didn't go into tracking even at all. It was mostly quality of food
Hmm.
and a little bit of quantity, just because I knew that she wasn't quite getting enough of certain things, but nothing crazy. It was super basic. And then all of a sudden she goes back 6 months later, gets that blood test again, and everything's in the green. And
Wow.
it's like, so something as simple as the blood work, it may or may not be an accurate predictor of your mortality, but it's definitely a peace of mind to know
Yeah.
when you go and get that blood work done.
Well, you could go. Did she lose weight?
No, no, no. She didn't have weight really to lose.
Right. So she did a new diet for a certain amount of time and saw no body composition change.
Yeah, no body.
But on the inside, her biomarkers, you would argue now that she's healthier than she's ever been. But if she took before and after pictures, if she took her measurements, there's no change.
Yeah,
So it's important to have those additional pieces of data if you're a data driven kind of person. I guarantee she feels better. I guarantee she's sleeping better just because her body is functioning more effectively.
yeah. And just like, our parents are in their 50s,
Yeah.
in the 60s, right? And it's like, when you get to be that age and you go to the doctor and they tell you that a lot of markers aren't looking good, that's not really you don't feel great there. You start to worry about those things. Maybe right now, if somebody told you your blood pressure was high at 28, you wouldn't worry too much about it, maybe. But when you're 58, you'd start to worry. So it's nice to have that peace of mind.
Yeah, food tastes really good with a lot of salt on it. So my blood pressure is
It really does.
so I have foods, then quality or quantity, I'm sorry, total number of calories. And then the next step for me would be starting to talk to macros. Now, what's important to know is we will not move on to macros until you prove that it is easy for you to track your foods. And then it's easy for you to track your total number of calories. Macros, now we're starting to dial things in, and you're getting good at paying attention to what you're eating.
Yep.
So this is a skill that could take 9 months to get to. So what
Sure.
is a macro? A macro, you have protein, carbs, fat. Protein, 4 calories per gram, same for carbs. Fat is 9 or more than double. And then you have like alcohol and like fiber is like a different category, but you shouldn't use alcohol to track your macros, I guess.
Hopefully, if you're tracking your macros, you're not consuming large amounts of alcohol also.
I did read this study about an exercise physiologist at some university. He put on weight and then he lost weight on beer and Pringles just to prove that CICO, calories in, calories out, is a thing. So
Yeah.
you can do it. I wouldn't advise it, but you could do it.
Yeah. No, I
So
think that's a good point, though. The macro thing is a whole nother level of detail. And
yeah.
if you, like, you do have to, I've been there. Like I said,
Mhm.
nutrition is hard for me. So, like, I know what it's like to track almost everything,
Yeah.
but not count that extra scoop of peanut butter or whatever it might be.
So you would avoid it. You just wouldn't write it down.
Well, I mean, I've been there, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So, so
Nice.
if you're tracking and you're trying to go with tracking macros
Mhm.
and you lose sight of the calories, then yeah, you're not going to see the progress that you think that you're hoping. If you're not being really meticulous about it, it's pointless. If you're not tracking absolutely everything, you might as
Yeah.
well be tracking nothing. So I agree.